Hello, viewers. Adam Pukalo here, investment advisor and commodity futures advisor with PI Financial. Thank you for tuning into our second technical take, canola, support and resistance.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. It's great to have you here again this month. My name is Levi Wood. I farm at Penn, Saskatchewan, and I am the past president of the Western Canadian Wheat Growers. I think, you're really bringing up the literal $1 million question today, and that's discussing, what's happening canola support and resistance. I think it's a great topic for what all of us are sitting around doing right now on our farms in the middle of winter, trying to sell our canola.
What is support? So technical analysis, again, is one way to analyze charts to help you make your marketing decisions. So support is the price level at which demand is thought to be strong enough to stop the price from declining further. So think of support as, even to use an analogy, support joists in a floor. It's considered the floor price that you think canola might not go below. So that's typically when buyers become more inclined to buy and sellers become less inclined to sell. In other words, holding that price kind of right where it is. And at support, demand may overcome supply and prevent that price from falling below support. And now a lot of farms I talk to, they look at fundamentals, but not often the technical side like this. And I believe, Levi, you probably know more on what's going on in the weather, for example, than I do even.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. And I find as farmers, oftentimes we tend to live more in the cash market than we probably should on the future side. And I think that that's an area of weakness of my own that I am, working on trying to improve, but it's certainly a work in process because, ultimately, if you can identify where some of these support levels actually exist, it gives you a bit of a better understanding of what's going on in the market and help you make some more informed decisions.
And that's a really good point, because I think you have to combine all different types of research to help you make your marketing decisions. And that's where one area that I really help clients tone a little bit more. And they often educate me on the fundamental side. So it's definitely, a group effort that way. And when it comes to support, it's not an exact perfect science, because support or floor levels may not actually hold, and you might be wrong. But it's a way for you to be unemotional about your marketing decisions. And because a decline below support could actually indicate a willingness to sell and or a lack of incentive to buy. So meaning the price could be actually going lower. And to give you a bit of a visual, this is a 180-day chart of May canola. So I actually had to just update this before we're talking here, because canola's been moving so much. And I'm sure, Levi, you've been kind of going crazy, going back and forth on what to do here. So.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I still have some physical that I haven't priced, but the vast majority of mine was priced probably 179 days ago, way over on the far left side of that graph. So, I think that's it's one of the challenges that all farms face, really, about how you deal with each of your products. That chart speaks for itself in terms of the incredible run up we've had this year, especially as you compare to what happened, in last year or any of the last couple of years. This is certainly for farmers anyway, this is an optimistic looking chart.
And that's a really good point is, it looks like I've had this question every day. Well, what's canola going to do? What's canola going to do? And I have just basically said the trend is still positive. And when looking at this chart, so you can see the line across at $632 a ton. So that is kind of support that I've seen, going back quite a bit, that we've seen canola hold, kind of going back to the beginning of the year. Now, what recently happened just last week is canola actually broke above a certain level that we're going to get to talking about resistance. But now what I'm seeing is support at $680 a ton on the May futures. And how I determine that level is that was a level that we saw back in kind of middle of this month or so. that canola traded really quite sideways actually on a chart. And once it started to kind of go above that, it really broke through and showed there was a lot more momentum possibly in this price. And again, like we talked about, you combine the technicals, you combine what you know about the fundamentals, what's going on in the stock sides of things, to help you make your decisions. And this is where, again, but if it goes below 680 or that support level, well, you know that we might be headed lower, and the next support could be around that 632. So again, just another way to look at the markets and help you make your marketing decisions.
You were talking before about the emotion, and I think that is a key driver of any of the decisions that we're making, especially myself. You know, like it's hard to make those decisions, and it's really interesting to see some of those levels actually and where they are, because like you said, hopefully maybe it can help, you know, me and everybody else divorce the emotion from the physical product, and which is not easy to do.
Exactly. And one, I would say, key factor as well to note for all technicals, so different types of technical analysis, is that it is subjective.
Right.
Because sometimes that I might see something that will be different from what you see or somebody else. And that is an important point to make. So that's where, again, advisors, you know, marketing analysts have kind of their different spin on things. And that's where, but having a general idea is definitely more important than not having an idea in at all. And that's where kind of talking about what resistance is now, or that ceiling where you might see the market not go above. Again, price resistance is at a level where the ceiling is, and selling might not actually be strong enough to go through that ceiling. So sellers become more inclined to sell, and buyers become less inclined to buy. So kind of that buying slows down, and that's where we might not see get above. And oftentimes this is kind of on the fundamental side we were talking about, is supply will overcome demand. Now, you know, it actually even just kind of a report came out today that, you know, stocks were lowered to around that 700,000 ton kind of mark, which, you know, one of the reasons why this canola market has been driving higher is, you know, that supply side is lower. And, you know, I'm sure you've kind of seen that in your local area, that prices to sell right now are pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think I didn't anticipate the levels getting quite to where they have been so far. You know, and that's been good. And I think, you know, when you talk about farms, it's interesting too, because, you know, it always, the other side of the equation, especially when you're pricing for your own farm business, is how much did you produce? You know, so it's nice once you get up to these levels, you know, if you're getting $15-16 in the cash market, you know, that gets very, very quite profitable at an average crop. But also really helps out even if you had a below average crop. And, you know, I think when those levels kind of start to be hit, there's, you know, it really translates into a lot of optimism with farmers. And I think you see, you know, that kind of translate in farm country. I think you see farmers just are generally more optimistic right now. They're feeling better about their business, especially in a year in which everyone's been trapped in their basement doing these Zoom meetings and, you know, lamenting the pandemic that's out there. So, you know, yeah. It's been a boon to the industry, I would say, so far.
No, definitely. And even just talking about how commodities are gaining a lot more attention too because of inflation, and maybe that's out of the scope a little bit of this call, but I think just in general, commodities are starting to see a little bit of more optimism, and it helps all of our psyches. So that's where, you know what, talking about kind of resistance where I'm seeing it. So mention, if you kind of recall in the support slide, 680 is support now, but it used to actually be resistance. So once that 680 was broken to the upside, like I mentioned, there was a lot more buyers than sellers. And that helped me indicate to clients that there might be more upside. And I don't know still where this is going to end. But what I can tell you is that the price is still positive. And if we do see a pullback, that 680 is that, you know, it's support, but it used to be resistance. And the question, again, I keep getting is, you know, where could we be going? So I pulled up actually a 20-year chart on canola. So this gives you an idea of really just the magnitude of this rally. And I'm seeing $750 a ton as kind of that next resistance or that ceiling. And you can see going back to 2008, kind of where it hit there and dropped quite quickly. And that's, just something for farms to maybe keep in mind.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, the good feelings associated with the chart being in a bullish pattern are, it's ultimately, it feels quite a bit worse to be on the other side of that equation when it's falling with the same velocity as it has, increased over the last few months.
I'll always remember that a trader once told me that you'll always remember your losses more than your gains. And it's always, you're always going to feel great on the way up as it's going. But if you ride that back down $200 a ton, you're probably going to remember and kick yourself possibly more.
Yeah. In a prior life before I came back to farming, I used to work in currency trading and say, I used to see that all the time, right? Like a $1 move in your favor feels good, but a $1 move against you feels way worse than the incremental benefit of the $1 in your favor. So, I know it's a phenomenon in the market, that's for sure.
I think that helping farms with small technical types of indicators like this will help really all farms, educate themselves and possibly make some different, better marketing decisions.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, I think when you look at a chart like that, one of the interesting things that I always find when you're looking at charts is with, I know all markets cycle and are cyclical, but with almost the precision in which some of those support and resistance levels actually hit, like, you can look across and you can see where these things almost repeat and where they go back to the same levels, regardless of the actual crop or how many acres or, the time value of money or the what's going on overseas and all those kind of things. So it is kind of amazing just to look at kind of how the sentiment around the crop from everybody in the value chain kind of ends up kind of heading to the same places over time.
And that's actually kind of a good point to mention that I talked about actually last video with Margaret, is one of the fundamental basic building blocks of technical analysis is that it's based on past market events. So nobody knows where the next part of the chart is going to go, but we look at what happened in the past to help us predict what's going to go on in the future. And combining that again with future expectations of fundamentals and stocks or weather, again, all these different factors possibly in the future, combining that maybe with this past data can help again make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an amazing part of the business and something I think we can all, and us as farmers should be continuing to educate ourselves on and trying to use some of the strategies that firms like yourself offer, because, growing it is one thing and selling it is quite another, but actually using the futures to your benefit and using the carry and using some of the options and that kind of thing that are out there can actually have a big impact as well. So thanks, Adam.
No, thank you very much, Levi. And for more technical information, feel free to go to my website at prairiecommodities.com.